Hi everyone, my name is Kiriki Postolos, and welcome to the Fight for Choice, a podcast where we analyze how Planned Parenthood Action Fund, one of America's most significant interest groups, shapes the conversation on reproductive rights in a country increasingly divided on this issue. Here's a staggering fact to kick us off. 1 in 4 women in the United States will have an abortion by age 45. Yet, since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, 21 states have restricted or banned abortion access altogether. Today, we'll discuss Planned Parenthood Action Fund's mission, its impact, and propose ethical, practical solutions for a deeper, complex issue. Let's dive in. Planned Parenthood was founded in 1916 by Margaret Sanger, aiming to provide birth control and reproductive health care to women. The Action Fund, established in 1989, became Planned Parenthood's political arm, focusing on lobbying, elections, and public advocacy to protect access to reproductive health care. Their mission: to ensure everyone has access to affordable, quality reproductive health care, including abortion, contraception, and education. Reproductive rights are at the center of a national debate, particularly after the Supreme Court's Dobbs v. Jackson decision in 2022, which overturned Roe v. Wade. On the state level, 21 states have implemented abortion bans or severe restrictions. This has resulted in health consequences. Restricted access leads to increased maternal mortality and inequitable health care for low-income women. The stakeholders. Let's look at the supporters: women, healthcare providers, reproductive justice advocates. The opponents are pro-life groups and religious organizations, at least many of them. Planned Parenthood Action Fund has a three-pronged approach. Lobbying. They work at a state and federal level to advocate for reproductive health policies. Example, their role in defeating anti-abortion bills in Colorado. Second, PAC contributions. In 2022, they spent over $45 million supporting pro-choice candidates. Lastly, public relations. Massive media campaigns, grassroots organizing, and public demonstrations, especially during Dobbs hearings. Planned Parenthood also fights misinformation, ensuring facts about contraception and healthcare remain accessible. While Planned Parenthood focuses on healthcare access, opposition groups like the National Right to Life Committee argue abortion is morally and ethically wrong. Pro-life groups claim life begins at conception, framing abortion as harmful. Religious organizations cite moral and biblical beliefs. Planned Parenthood emphasizes that abortion is healthcare and a private medical decision. Criminalizing it disproportionately affects low-income and minority communities. Reproductive rights may be one of the most polarizing issues in America, but practical ethical solutions do exist. I believe the way forward lies in two critical areas: federal protections and comprehensive prevention through education and access. First, we need federal protection for reproductive rights. Access to abortion care and contraception shouldn't depend on your zip code or your financial situation. Healthcare is not a privilege. It's a fundamental human right. Yet today, millions of women, especially those in low-income and marginalized communities, face insurmountable barriers simply because of where they live. Passing federal laws would ensure that every person, regardless of their circumstances, has the right to make decisions about their own body. To me, this is not just a political stance. It's about individual freedom and healthcare equity. If we claim liberty and equality as core American values, then those values must include protecting reproductive autonomy. Now, I want to share something personal. I usually aim to keep this space unbiased, a place where I can focus on presenting information clearly and moderately. But let me step out of that role for a moment. I myself would not get an abortion. I personally have the privilege, the resources, and the preference of handling that situation differently. But here's the key. My choice is just that, mine. It shouldn't dictate anyone else's. I am firm, clear, and convicted in the belief that no one should have the right to take away another person's control over their body and their future. Second, prevention matters. We can't have an honest conversation about abortion without talking about how to reduce the need for it. Expanding access to contraception and implementing evidence-based sex education are practical, proven solutions. These programs are cost-effective, widely supported, and backed by data showing they significantly lower unintended pregnancy. Planned Parenthood Action Fund has been leading this fight for decades, advocating for affordable birth control, pushing for comprehensive education programs, and empowering individuals to make informed choices. Prevention saves money. Prevention saves lives. Prevention even saves people from emotional and economical hardship. But prevention isn't always enough. There are situations where abortion isn't just a choice, it's an absolute necessity. I'm speaking, of course, of cases of rape, incest, pedophilia, and pregnancies that threaten the life of the mother. These are not hypothetical scenarios used as argument. They are real, lived experiences, and they must remain accessible for the people facing them. Planned Parenthood Action Fund has been relentless in ensuring abortion access remains available in these critical cases. They fight against restrictive laws that ignore survivors of sexual violence and life-threatening complications. For example, in states like Ohio and Texas, Planned Parenthood Action Fund has worked to challenge bans that make no exception for these cases, laws that fail to account for the unimaginable suffering of people in these situations. Now, I know the counter-argument. People say these cases rarely happen, or most abortions are for convenience. Statistically, that's true. According to the CDC, most abortions are not performed in cases of rape, incest, or medical emergencies. Opponents also point out that many abortions involve women who have had the procedure done more than once. I hear those arguments. I know those statistics exist. But here's the thing. Just because something happens less often doesn't make it meaningless. Think about what we're saying when we dismiss these cases as rare. We're saying that the lives of survivors, of women and girls who are victims of rape, incest, or life-threatening pregnancies, are somehow less significant because their suffering isn't a majority statistic, but their pain, their survival, and their autonomy still matter. Planned Parenthood advocates for a system that doesn't ignore these rare but devastating circumstances. Their work ensures that survivors of sexual violence or those facing life-threatening complications don't fall through the cracks of a system built on numbers instead of empathy. We cannot advocate for saving the lives of unborn children while ignoring the lives of women and girls who are pregnant due to rape, incest, or medical crises. Their lives matter too. Their suffering is not diminished just because it doesn't happen to be the majority. Because the truth is, it happens. It does happen. And when it does, abortion access can be the difference between life and death, between survival and unimaginable suffering. That's why this conversation can't stop at politics or religion. It can be reduced to just another conservative versus liberal argument. This is about human lives. Planned Parenthood Action Fund fights for healthcare equity, prevention, and compassion. Their advocacy isn't about extremes. It's about ensuring that every person in every situation has the right to make the best decision for their own life. Together, these approaches, protecting reproductive health care at the federal level and investing in prevention, strike a balance. They protect women's autonomy while addressing concerns about abortion rates. If we're serious about progress, we need to move past extremes. Protecting access to health care, empowering people with real knowledge, and recognizing the dignity of those facing unthinkable circumstances isn't radical. It's humane, ethical, and truly achievable. We have explored a lot in this episode. The history of Planned Parenthood Action Fund, their role in fighting for reproductive health care, the polarized conversation about abortion, and the solutions that can move us forward. But at the heart of all of this, beyond the politics, the arguments, and the statistics, are real people. People whose lives are impacted every single day by the decisions that lawmakers make. Planned Parenthood Action Fund doesn't just talk about reproductive health care. They act. They advocate for federal protections that ensure access to abortion and contraception, no matter where someone lives. They push for prevention-focused solutions, like affordable birth control and evidence-based sex education, because reducing unintended pregnancies is something we should all agree on. And they fight for the people who are so often ignored in this debate, survivors. If there's one thing I want you to take away, it's this. The fight for reproductive rights is not black and white. It's complicated, it's personal, and it matters. And while the solutions may not be perfect or universal, they exist and they work. As individuals, we may have different beliefs, but what's non-negotiable is the need for choice, compassion, and justice. Whether we agree or disagree on the issue, denying people control over their own bodies or ignoring their suffering completely is not the answer. So what can you do? Educate yourself on the facts and the policies that affect reproductive health care. Engage in conversations with an open mind, even when it's hard. Show up, whether that's voting for candidates who prioritize healthcare equity or supporting organizations like Planned Parenthood Action Fund that advocate for change. Change starts with us, our voices, our votes, and our willingness to listen. Thank you for tuning in to the Fight for Choice. Let's keep the conversation going. Stay informed, be empathetic, and never underestimate the power you have to make a difference.